Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for an overview of our master's programs here at the main campus in College Station, Texas. We are going to cover a lot of information about a lot of our different programs here. But as a reminder, this isn't focused just on the graduate programs. We don't cover the undergrad, but I will give a great overview of where we're located, what we offer. I'll have Matt Upton joining me at the end to cover some of the career services. But jot down those questions and come back to me at the end, and we'll be sure to answer those at the either through a chat or just unmuting at that time, which I will stop recording at that point. So today we're going to talk about the location of the College Station campuses. Now, keep in mind, we do have another one in DC and some programs online. I will touch on what those are, but I will not go into any other detail because they present their own programs. So just keep in mind, it's very focused on just the master's programs that I work with. So I'll go through those. We're also going to talk about admissions and the statistics for the last entering class, as well as how we fund our students and the cost associated with that, particularly if someone's coming from out of state and the waivers that we offer for that. We'll also talk about professional development and how we work with our students to get them ready for their new careers. And then again, career services, Matt will come in and talk a little bit about those kinds of jobs our students get. So we'll start with just a generic part of what is the Bush School of Government and Public Service. So we are an undergrad and graduate program at Texas A&M University. We are the smallest school here. We opened our doors in 1997 when we received the Bush Library and Museum. This was part of that package deal to lure George Bush here. Letting him know that we can provide a school in his honor, which would prepare students for service, which of course that was what embodied who he was in giving back. So we've had roughly 3,000 master's alumni come through our programs for these past 25 years. What we're going to concentrate, these master's degrees are these ones that are offered here in College Station. We've got 5 of those degrees. The DC campus has their own 2 degrees. And then we have 1 online degree that I will mention, but I will provide their contact information if you want more about that one. There are also 6 graduate certificates that are offered in a mixture of online and on campus. But again, those are offered either through our Office of Extended Education or through the different departments here at A&M. So I'll provide some contact information on those. Essentially, what we're doing is preparing students for career in a lot of different public service sectors. So nonprofits, you've got the federal, state, and local government, including the MPSA now is really developing a great program on city management. Agencies with an education focus, with a health focus, with security, climate change, environmental issues. Government contractors, a lot of those are private industry, but have a public service focus. And even those that are just going straight into private industry, which is an okay option too. We like to publish that we are a public service education, and probably 70 to 75% of our students do go into that field, but obviously some find a different pathway, and private industry is okay as well. And some will even go back to school, either for a JD or a PhD, and that kind of leaves it up to the students. Not what we're really preparing students for, because we are a terminal degree, but some do that route. So I'm going to mention again our location. So the main campus is where I'm located. We're in College Station, Texas. And by the way, I didn't even mention my name. I'm Catherine Meyer. I work with Bush School admissions here in the College Station campus. And Matt Upton, who will join me later, is with the Texas A&M campus working our students here within the Bush School. So here we go. We're home of Texas A&M University. We are centrally located to 4 major metropolitan areas. It's one of the most common questions I get when I'm on the road is, where exactly is College Station? So if you look at the blue star on that map, we are about an hour and a half from Austin and Houston. And then if you go north, you're going to run into Dallas-Fort Worth, about 3 hours away. And if you go kind of southwest, you're going to go into San Antonio, which is also about 3 hours away. So it's a great location in order to get to the major areas in Texas, especially when it comes into the networking, not only for your internships, but for the career placement, that a lot of our students do want to stay within Texas. But keep in mind, we also have a great big presence in Washington, D.C., because a lot of our students are headed to that city with all the different federal government opportunities. And we have now opened a branch location in Washington, D.C. It's in a great spot a couple of blocks away from the White House. So you can just catch those Farragut North and Farragut West metros and get off and walk to it. But this one is geared towards working professionals. So they only offer evening classes. It may take longer than the traditional 2 years to complete. So it just gives people a different option if they want to go straight into, hey, I want to go into DC and then I will worry about getting my degree as I'm working. Whereas a lot of times here in the College Station campus, students may have already figured out, hey, I need help with funding and I need someone who's going to help me get the in-state tuition and fees. And we can offer that at our location where they can't do that in the Washington, D.C. campus because they charge differently, which I will go over in a few minutes. Here on the College Station campus, we are part of the Bush Presidential Library Center. So you'll notice that we are located away from campus. So in this picture, in the background is the Texas A&M main campus. And then you've got Reed Arena for the basketball. You've got all the intramural fields off to the right. You've got the tennis center. We are located in what is called West Campus, which is just a bus ride away. Literally, people get on the bus from main campus and it's within about 3 or 4 stops. But we are located next to the Conference Center and the Bush Foundation, which they hold a number of different events here between conferences and speakers, and maybe even special events, bringing in concerts and other things. And then they've also got the George Presidential Library and Museum at the front. And that is where people come in and tour the museum, learn a little bit more about President Bush. And then we're that center middle building called the Allen Building. And all of our classes within the Bush School are held in this building, unless you decide to take electives in other departments across campus. So not too far away is public health, Mace Business School. You can do classes with engineering, and they're just, again, bus right away. So as far as the community and our rankings, the Brazos Valley consists of Bryan College Station. I love being in this area because we are more of a small town feel, but it's still a population of over 200,000. So Bryan and College Station are sister cities that sit next to each other. You've got about 88,000 with Bryan and about 120,000 with College Station. And so between the two, there's just a lot of amenities and a lot of great restaurants and some shopping here. And if you don't like the choices you have, obviously Austin and Houston are an hour and a half away. And so people take advantage of the concerts and the activities that they can maybe take a car ride over and do those. But there's a lot going on here. The BCS area is ranked high in a lot of different areas between economic and social categories. So just a great quality of life. You're not stuck in traffic for hours and feel like I'm not getting anywhere. Right now, we do have a lot of growth. So there are some reroutes from traffic. So not to say that we have our own set of problems with some of the traffic. But it's a great place to get a good feel of people know who you are here. And we'll say howdy and ask how you're doing. College Station itself is ranked one of the best cities to live in America. So we're number 24 up in niche.com. Other rankings had us as number 9 best college town with Rent Cafe. We've got ranked number 19 for best cities to raise a family in America. It just has a great big amount of different parks and activities that families can get involved with. Now, as far as Texas A&M University, I will not exaggerate here. We are huge. We are fortunate in that being part of the West Campus, that we feel much smaller and much more connected with one another, because you have to have a purpose of being here in the Allen Building, which is going to be through political science or international affairs, and the public service administration programs. And that's the only reason people usually are in these buildings. And so we get connected with one another. But because we're part of the largest university, second largest in the nation, you get all the amenities of having a large institution with the library resources and the busing and being able to get to the apartment complexes because of that, and the research opportunities and the funding that we have and study abroad. So a lot of great things going for us. But keep in mind, you are on a campus that we are known for about 77,000 students. Just alone, our graduate students is 17,000 here at this campus. We're about 400 of that here at the Bush School. So just a small little part of a big, big university with a lot of amenities for that. And if you're curious about Bush School rankings, I will point out US News and World Report only does the rankings with public service programs, public affairs is what they call it. Nothing happens with basically international affairs. So I can only put it that we're 26, we're tied for that ranking, 21 in nonprofit, 21 in public management. In the past, we even had the Homeland Security was ranked high. Those we tend to drop on and off just depending on who's filling out those surveys. So it's a little hit or miss, some of those. But great programs. We're NASPA accredited, we're APSEA accredited on the MIA side, which means we've been vetted with all of our career, all of our education. They've gone through courses and basically given their stamp of approval that we are serving our students in the best possible way. So the academic overview, here's what we offer. So the Bush School itself offers 2 bachelor's degrees, political science, international affairs. What we're focusing on are the students who are coming into these master's degrees. That's public service administration, international affairs. Now, international affairs has 2 3-year degrees where you will start with public health for the first year and a half and then come to us for the last year and a half for international affairs. Or the same thing with economics. You start with 1 year with them, 1 year with us, and then split the last year between each of us. So those programs take that full 3 years, but I'll get into more detail on what those look like. We also have an executive international policy. I put executive because you have to have at least 4 years of international professional experience. It's basically created for our military students or for those that have substantial work and then want to come back and get in and out. It's a 1-year program, but that is offered both here in College Station and in the Washington, D.C. location. And then uniquely just for the DC, we started a program based out of our international affairs program here in College Station, and we retitled it National Security and Intelligence. So it has a big focus just on intelligence, but so does our MIA here in College Station. And then we have what is called the Executive Master of Public Service and Administration, and it is an online degree that people can take from anywhere. And that usually takes most from 2 to 3 years to complete that degree. And then finally, there's a PhD degree that students can go through political science. I specifically do not work with that program, so I'm not covering any of the details with it or the EMPSA, but I'll give you contact information or you can reach out to them if you are interested in them. And then finally, our Office of Extended Education also does a number of these graduate certificates. These certificates are 4 to 5 courses online, and so students can come through and focus on different areas. Anywhere from, for instance, the CAIA, they've got focus areas very similar to our MIA. So people can focus on diplomacy, defense, intelligence. And let's say that someone started with a graduation in December and we don't admit into the MIA until the fall. They may want to take certificate courses in the spring and the summer just to keep the juices flowing and keep within it. And they can earn those 4 courses over those 2 semesters, or maybe even 1 semester. It would be intense. And those 4 courses would then count towards the MIA. So it's kind of a way to come in off cycle. You just have to make sure that you've applied for it, get accepted into it, and then you can focus on those areas. We do the same thing with the Homeland Security, the nonprofit management, and the public management. Those last 3 I just mentioned are probably a little more leaning towards the Master of Public Service Administration. And then we do the National Security Affairs and we do Geospatial Intelligence, but those are a little bit different. You have to apply through the directors of those. For Geospatial Intelligence, for instance, you'd have to go through the Geography Department. Now, as far as the Master of Public Service, let's get to a little bit of details for it, and then I'm going to hit the MIA. So MPSA is a 2-year, 48 credit hour degree, right? Most students are full-time coming in, taking their classes during the day. Excuse me. Most of our classes are held for 3 hours, 1 day a week. So if you've got 4 courses, you may have a course that's offered on a Monday in the morning and maybe in the afternoon. Maybe you come back on a Wednesday and take a morning class, and Thursday's an afternoon class. So those 4 courses make up each of your semesters here. And that's how you can get out in those 2 years. It does require an internship. unless you already have some substantial work experience. You would be working with our career services office, with your faculty contacts, with some of your own leads to line up an internship in an area of interest to you. And in your final year, you'll be taking what is called a 1-year capstone, where you're working for a client. And in this case, the faculty have gone out and found the clients and the scope of the work you're doing. And then you will pick something from that list and then work with your fellow classmates to present a project for that. So we also in this department have PH lead-into degrees. So somebody who gets started, who's really interested into education policy, for instance, they can come in and start our courses and go, you know what, I really like what I'm doing here. I want to get a PhD in it. They can then apply for that education degree, for that PhD, and apply while they're here. And it gives them a fast track into that program. We do the same thing with public health, and that information is on the website. They're not as extensive. I don't work with those through admissions. Those are going to be internal degrees. So I'm not even sure how often students do this, but it's only a handful, guaranteed for that. Now, I mentioned earlier those Bush School graduate certificates that sometimes people will start early. You can transfer up to 4 courses. So that's 12 credit hours into the Master of Public Service or into the Master of International Affairs. So that's a way for some people to maybe dip their toe and try out some classes, or just start off cycle if that's the case. And then keep in mind, we do have some courses that are offered online through those certificates or through that Executive Master of Public Service. And because they're online classes, if you want to take an online class, you can do that. Just keep in mind, it's an additional cost of $1,500 per course that you take online. So not as many do it because of the cost, but for some, it's the freedom of, hey, I can only come into College Station twice a week. I'm going to take at least one of my courses that's maybe on Thursday and my other classes are Monday, Tuesday. I'm going to do it online. And if that convenience saves them some money and they want to go ahead and pay for the additional cost, they can do that. So you would work with your department to line those up, and just keep in mind core courses have to be taken online. Now, as far as the tracks and concentrations, tracks are required within the Master of Public Service, so you have to do at least one. So that's public management, public policy analysis, or nonprofit management. As far as the concentrations go, they're elective. You can choose to follow an area if you want. You can just choose to jump around and take classes that are of interest, and maybe even create your own area of interest. So we've had people come in and say, you know, I'm from Houston and I really want to work with transportation policy and issues that they face. And they can focus on that area. They design it and then work with urban planning here at Texas A&M, take some courses through there as well. So you've also got those doing national defense and homeland security, which is one of our areas already developed, but they may take it a different direction and do emergency management and kind of give it a different title and take some courses out of other departments. So lots of flexibility in that. So no 2 students have to look the same, either in what they're studying or in the classes that they're taking. So as far as that goes, we're going to jump to the Master of International Affairs. Very similar in how it's structured. It is also a 2-year program, 48 credit hours. Here you've got a few more electives to play with. You've got 11 electives. And so with that, you're going to end up having to kind of mix and match your classes. You're going to end up, adding one additional part, passing a foreign language test. Keep in mind, no language courses are part of your curriculum. So if you're coming in and going, you know, I've been working on German and I want to continue that. I want to take German, you know, level 600. You can't count that as part of your curriculum. Everything that we're doing for foreign language is outside attainment or just keeping it up to date, right? So we're going to have Rosetta Stone access. We're going to have language groups, some additional options for you to study. And then you're going to go meet with the coordinator for this and say, hey, I'm ready to work and take my test on German. And they're going to put you with ACTFL, American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, and you'll be able to take that test. If you pass it, you're done. That requirement has been met. And if you want to then work on Spanish, because, hey, I had that in high school and I want to continue it, we'll pay for that test as well. If you don't pass that first test, let's say it was in German, then it's on you to have to wait those 2 to 3 months before you're able to take it again. So you can't wait to the last minute because it is a graduation requirement. If you don't pass that exam, you will get an empty tube at graduation. So we encourage students to try to take it within their first year while they're here. And if they find out they're not where they want to be, or if they're getting ready for that test and find out they're not where they want to be, then maybe they can do their language immersion instead of an internship between their first and second year, because that choice is yours. You get to decide which one you want to undertake that works for your schedule. So the other part of this, in conjunction with the MPSA, is you also have a semester-long capstone instead of a year-long. So you're also working for a client. The faculty has gone out and found people to work for. They'll give you the scope of the work, and then you'll rank order your choices. I already mentioned earlier, we have 3-year combined degrees with public health and economics. So if that's of interest, we can give you more information on it. And the same as I mentioned earlier, you can transfer up to 12 credit hours from one of those certificates. Now, the tracks here are a little bit more limited. You've got national security and diplomacy is one track, or international development and economic policy. Those are required. You have to do one or the other, and we'll ask you which one you're interested in when you apply. And you're kind of held to that because there are different requirements for each. Now, the concentrations here, not elective, they are required. You have to do 2 concentrations. To fulfill a concentration, that's basically taking 3 courses. You can do more than that, but you have to do at least 3. So if someone were to come in and work on cybersecurity policy, for instance, they're going to have to take 3 courses out of about the 6 to 8 or 9 that are listed there. And they're not always just our classes. They are other classes, maybe on campus, that's maybe offered through one of the engineering departments. And so it's just a matter of you mixing and choosing. So again, no 2 students have to look alike, even if they're taking the same tracks and concentrations, because you have a lot to say so in what those courses look like under that heading. So lots of variety here. Some of them are more tied to NSD, that national security, and others are tied more to IDEP, which is the international development. So for instance, if someone looks at conflict and development, that one's cross-listed because it not only does it deal a lot with international development issues, it's also dealing a lot with security in those countries and how they get resources to those people who need the support. So this is just a matter of looking on the website and seeing what they're titled for. Now, the combined degrees, keep in mind, you're going to be applying to both departments simultaneously for admission. In the case of us, we're the backup because we're the second program. And so you would be applying through SOFIS, through the public health. That's their application process. And then once you've applied to them, they'll give you instructions on how to apply for us in an internal app. That way you're not paying for 2 separate applications. And with econ, they're the controlling one, so they'll be the one that you apply for. And again, we'll do the secondary app for them. So you'll work with both of our departments. We'll tell you how much scholarship that you would be getting in this, but it's only when you're enrolled full-time with us for the main section when you're enrolled. So I don't know if you come in for public health, for instance, that MIA portion, when you're public health, you're going to start with them. It's whatever scholarships they offer you. If they don't offer non-resident tuition waivers, then you don't get that until you get to us in the second year and a half. So you really have to work with their department to find out what kind of GA positions or research positions or just work positions they may have, or if they just give scholarships. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of legwork on these 2 programs to find out how you can be supported in them. That Master of International Policy is much smaller. This is a 1-year degree. We're enrolling anywhere between 2 to 10 students each semester. That does include primarily fall and spring, but a few might do summer. This does require 4 years of professional international experience. It's a 30 credit hour degree. Now, remember, this one is offered both in College Station and in Washington, D.C. We both accept applications for all 3 semesters. You can still take up to 2 online classes, but remember, they cost a little bit more. The MIP is streamlined compared to the MIA. There is no internship because people already have experience. There's no capstone because we're just letting you pick your choices with a little more freedom on those electives. And there's no foreign language exam, just because the program's built differently. Bush School funding is not available for those that are looking for that, but federal aid and military benefits are eligible. That's just the way we predicted this program, was to start it off with no support. So financially, you'll just be on your own for it. In the DC campus, just remember those are evening courses. If you're here in College Station, they're daytime courses. In College Station, you get both of the tracks. If you're in Washington, DC, you could only do the national security and diplomacy. They don't have the development faculty support there in order to give enough classes for that. They may have a couple of them now, but I know it's not developed enough for a track. And then as far as the elective focus, you're going to choose from the MIA concentrations, and then DC has a couple of options for theirs. I want to save 2 or 3. All right, now as far as the application goes, keep in mind, these are the College Station degree deadlines. The DC, you'll have to look to the website to see what they're doing. We're giving a priority application funding deadline of December 15th. So just make sure that you're applying by that date, if at all possible. What that means is we're just ensuring that we can get that application processed in front of faculty in time to ensure that every scholarship that we have, both in-house and within Texas A&M, we can make nominations for. That doesn't mean that if you miss that priority funding, you won't get any money. We're still going to give funding considerations for everyone who hits the January 5th or January 10th deadlines. It's just there may have already been some earlier deadlines that we had to do super quick, and they require recommendations from the faculty, and we can't get those done if you apply at the last minute. If you're applying for the MI combined degrees, remember those options are February the 1st. So MIA is pretty early this year. We're going January 5th. January 10th at the end of the week is the MPSA. We want to get those all gathered up from you guys after the holiday if you couldn't do December 15th. And then as far as the requirements go, what we're processing is we're getting the application fee, any transcripts, remember they can be unofficial at that point. We have streamlined this to just require 2 letters of rec now, a resume, a personal statement, and if you're an international application, proof of English proficiency, unless you have already met that in another way. I do want to remind you, GRE is optional. People often ask us, well, is that going to hurt me? It's not, it's optional. So if you feel like you are a good test taker and you want to submit that because you think that can help an already solid file, maybe get more funding, then please do. We love to see those scores just to help strengthen a file. If you've got a really low GPA and again, you're trying to give your best foot forward and why we should consider you, I would look at the GRE. If you're a lousy test taker, maybe it's still not the way to go. Some people still optionally say, no, I'm not going to do it. But you can always take the test, and if you don't like your test scores, just ask us to remove them. It is a $220 test, I believe, or $210. So it's not cheap, and it's going to eat your time. And that's why a lot of people don't submit it, but it is up to you. Some still do, and it does help them when it can. Now, that's true of those requirements and those dates for the Master of Public Service, Master of International Affairs, and the combined MIA degrees. If you're looking at the MIP, it's different. This one is a fall, spring, and summer deadlines, and we move much faster. In this case, it's an application and fee, the transcripts, 2 letters of rec, resume, personal statement, same things needed, but we're going to turn everything around a lot quicker. And you guys have dates that you will apply for. So instead of it being in December, your fall deadline's in April. So you got a little bit more time to make that decision. So what does this timeline look like? December 15th, we're just basically getting everything ready for faculty. By mid-January or early February, we're getting those offers to go out of, hey, we'd really like to interview you. In February, we're doing the interviews. By March, we will now sit with the faculty through the committees, not only for admission, but also for scholarship. And when you receive your offer letter and by mid-March, it's not only going to tell you if you're admitted or if you're on the wait list, but how much funding that you qualified for in your acceptance. You can really say, yes, I want that. And then as far as when you need to let us know if you're coming, it's April 15th. Now, MIP works a lot faster. There's 7 to 10 business days once you submit that completed application. And primarily it's just because it's a different makeup of those students. And so they just run directly with the department head and admissions, and we make decisions pretty quickly. All this information is found on the website under admissions degree. Now, as far as stats go, this will go pretty quickly. If you're curious what that incoming class looked like, the MPSA average was a GPA of 3.47. Average age was a little higher this year. We were at 27. Usually we're closer to 24, 25. 57% of the class was female, 24% were underrepresented groups, 20% were international, 34% were non-residents. Work experience, 58% came to us with little to no experience. You got 12% that had 2 to 5 years and 30% who had 5 or more years. Many times those are our international students who come already having worked in their governments, and they're coming here to either get more experience in nonprofits or government work. Now the MIA looks very similar, also 3.56 GPA, a little higher. Their average age is a little younger with this group, so it's 24, 48% female, 25% underrepresented groups, 14% international, 52% were non-resident. So they tend to end up being able to land a few more non-residents here. But again, remember, MPSA is local state government, so Texans tend to want to stay in Texas for that. Work experience, a little bit younger group, 62% had less than 2 years, 18% were 2 to 5 years, and 20% had 5 or more years. Remember, we talked a little bit about that funding that's going to come, which I'll cover in the next slides. Merit funding comes with that experience and the fit and having done well in your background. So all that's going to affect your scholarship. So the better GPA and experiences you have with it to kind of stand out from the crowd, that's what that scholarship committee and admissions committee are looking for. Now, in terms of the small school environment, we're not huge. So again, while we may still have a class of 90 for the MIA, for instance, you're going to know each other and you're going to be sitting in classes. Some of them are core required, everyone has to take. But our classes aren't huge. Most of them max out at around 20 to 25 students. So an average class size might be closer to about 16, especially when you get into your upper level courses in that second year, because there's just so many to choose from. People can spread out their options. But you're going to be learning from seasoned practitioners. So again, we got diplomats, we've got former administrators for nonprofits who've run them. You've got people coming from RAND Corporation. You've got people from the intelligence field, Homeland Security. It runs the gamut, and those people add so much context to your education. In addition to those expert professors who spend their academic research pulling up information and presenting it and just enlightening the world with their focus. Now, funding and cost, here's where the groundwork's laid, right? This is how we stand out. Scholarships are granted to every student admitted into the MPSA and MIA, as long as you're a full-time student. Now, if you drop to part-time status, the funding goes away. So our students typically do 4 courses a semester. You have to do at least 3 to receive funding. So if you're going to do less than 4, you're either going to have to make up some time in the summer, or you may end up being here an extra semester and that may not be funded. It depends on what you're trying to do with your schedule and how quickly you want to get out of here. So just keep in mind, most of our students are full-time, taking 4 courses each semester. If you are a receiving scholarship at the graduate level here at Texas A&M, we are also providing a non-resident tuition waiver if you are not a Texan. So anyone from California, New York, Florida, wherever, they're going to automatically receive that waiver. Now, it doesn't show up until August, so don't panic over the summer. But it's worth about $12,700, $12,800 a year right now at 24 credit hours per year. Now, your scholarship is going to range from our top awards, which are around $29,000 for a couple of fully funded awards, to start being $20,000, $15,000, $10,000, $7,000, $5,000, and $3,000. 2/3 of our students get either 3 or 5. It's harder to get those higher end scholarships. But again, the better you present yourself on paper with your GPA, through your interviews, all the aspects that we provide, then that's when you can maybe significantly improve that option and get a, you know, a 10,000 or a 15 or a 20,000. We'll hit that second step. Summer internship scholarships are available. So if you get an unpaid internship over the course of the summer, because you're required to do that, career services will help with that, and we'll cover that in a few minutes. In year 2, your scholarship renews as long as you have a 3.25 GPA or better, or the only way you can change your scholarship and maybe improve it is to apply for a graduate assistantship. And there's about 10 to 12 per department that are offered to work with faculty. And there's another 4 to 5 that are offered through either career services, admissions, communications, development. And so you can apply for a GA position. If you get that, you have to give up your first year scholarship because you can't double dip. But those GA positions are pretty significant. They're closer to about 20,000 per year, and you will work 20 hours a week for that money. Now, how much do we cost? As a Texas resident, the MPSA and MIA were just under 14,000 per year, right? 13,600. If you're a non-resident, you're not going to see that 26,000 because that scholarship and that waiver are going to knock that cost down. So as a non-resident, it's not 26,300, you're at 13,600 because you're getting that waiver to knock it down to Texas resident cost. And then from that 13,600 for everybody, now subtract what that scholarship is. So if you come in and you get a $10,000 award, your payment for your tuition and fees is only $3,600. So we are trying to keep this as an affordable option, but keep in mind the average scholarship is $3,000 or $5,000. International students, same thing. You're just a little higher because you've got about $4,000 insurance costs that you have to cover. Otherwise, you're the same way with the non-residents. You just get that waiver. It's going to knock that cost down to Texas rates, and then you're going to knock off your scholarship from that too. We have very, very few full rides. So just understand, most people are also applying for FAFSA to help with this. If you are happen to be looking at the MIP, their costs are a little bit different. They're a little bit higher. But again, you guys can work with us directly, and we'll just make sure that you're understanding how this looks. But you guys don't get funding and you don't get the waiver. So the cost you see is the cost you pay. So just keep that in mind. Now, as far as support with our students, professional development programs, we've got a number of leadership and writing programs. So you're working with our staff who work one-on-one with you, and you can just go in there and work with them directly. We've got Brenda and Cindy who are teaching formally through some of the support they do for the writing Medal of Excellence. That you do both leadership and writing parts for. And if you complete a bunch of work for them that is getting you ready for professional work, then you can receive this medal you get to wear at graduation that goes around your neck. It looks like an Olympic medal. It's really nice. As far as leadership goes, Holly is doing formally through workshops. You're also getting practical information through the internships and the involvement that you're doing with it. And then internally, they're doing self-assessments and development plans. You can work one-on-one with her. So especially our younger students, sometimes it's giving them a lot of information. Myers-Briggs assessments, how to manage time, all very helpful, and they're elective. Sign up for what you want. As far as speakers and conferences, there's visiting faculty, visiting alumni, coming in and either sharing their experiences about their jobs, or maybe about their sector and what the work is to be a city manager or to work in a nonprofit, or within the national security fields. And so you guys can attend those every week. Just pay attention to what's being advertised. They're usually either at lunchtime or after. Fewer at breakfast, but maybe after the day, so 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. As far as the library here, students have access to A&M's library collections. And so you've got an interlibrary loans and document delivery. Not all courses even have books. A lot of it's just you checking out and getting your hands on these documents to read. And the faculty will work with you on those. As far as international, we've got some study abroad trips that are either hosted by faculty. One that was just done last month was taking a trip to Greece. before the war, we had done Israel, we had done Germany. Those trips just change out every semester, every year. Usually they're taking in May, but again, we've seen some in even August and December. There's reciprocal exchanges. I need to update this, though I think the only one still in play is Wales. The South Korea and Germany, I think they're working on different agreements, so I need to clean this part up. And then the capstones, and many of the capstones will travel. So sometimes people will even choose the capstone based on where they're going or based off the kind of the topic that they're doing. I mentioned this earlier for the language requirement, but the MIA, you're required to pass a spoken exam. And we do provide you free Rosetta Stone access, the practice groups. But sometimes people will go abroad, and we've got several that we work with that you can get a list, or just work with the career services to get approval for the ones that you're really interested in doing. And then as far as the research centers, we've got a number of institutes and centers where they're doing a different research, and sometimes our students will be hired to do work on some of those, or they're coordinating different speaker events that come and work and interact with our students so that you can learn more about certain fields. And so those might be the Institute for Science, Technology, and Public Policy. It can be the Mosbacher Institute, the Scrowcroft Institute for International Affairs, the Center for Nonprofits, All-Britain Center for Grand Strategy. All of these are very unique areas that support our students in either the MPSA or the MIA. All right, I did have a question really quick that came up that asked if admissions are open for winter intake or only for the fall. We only do the fall for the MPSA and MIA, and they open September 1. So yes, those are now open and ready to go if you just go to the website under admissions. All right, as far as the students and getting involved, there's a number of different organizations that are hosted here within the Bush School itself. So public service organization is a big one. They are constantly bringing in new community service areas. So we've done the elder care where they're maybe building a ramp for a home. They're doing the pantry where we're sorting food and getting it ready for the holidays. It could be Habitat for Humanity. There's just so many that are actively involved. It's a great way just to spend maybe a Saturday or a weeknight in helping in a number of different organizations. And this goes across both programs. There's also Student Government Association. Many of you may have been involved in that in undergrad, so you can continue that here. There's a number of different committees you can get involved in. So social and traditions, real big one right now is tailgating, pulling the tickets so the students can sit together, and then organizing the tailgates outside of the field. Sometimes people go in for the game, others just sit out there and watch the game on the TV out there at the tailgate. So all kinds of ways to get involved here. There's also International City County Management Association, fundraising professionals, the Foreign Language and Cultural Society, the Ambassadors Council, if you want to be working events and be representative here. It's kind of a selective area. And then we've got intramurals and athletics here. We do an annual game with the LBJ school over at UT Austin. There's also a number of different teams for soccer, flag football, even orientation. We did kickball games, first years versus second years. So there's lots of fun also developed into these programs. Now I was looking to see if Matt was back. So Matt is our career service representative. I don't see him logged on right now. He had to run out and do errands over the lunch. So he was going to try to make it back. So I'm going to keep moving so we can finish. The career services, Matt and his team, there's three of them. And it's Matt Upton. And then you've got Mike Cochran, who is working with the employer relations. Matt's kind of the overarching, I do everything guru. He's wonderful, does a lot of our alumni connections because he's been here about 25 years. And then you've got Ashley Winterroad, who's doing a number of our workshops. And so she's a great resource so that you can, take a look at your LinkedIn profile. What do I need to know? How do I write a federal resume? How do I negotiate salaries? All those kinds of opportunities for you to go in and just research and learn more about how to get that cover letter ready for a job. And they also do a lot of one-on-one with students too. So They're working on this internship, sending you notifications out on what's available through our Simplicity. I take it back. It's 2012, I think, is our system now. And you guys will log into that system and see what is out for those internship or jobs and follow up with the ones that are of interest. And then you can meet with them one-on-one to kind of cover those cover letters and details you need to know before you go in for an interview. The employment rates are really high. So keep in mind, sometimes I put around 86 to 89% of our bottom level. Many of that, the lower end is the MIA side. And that's because of the security clearances that they have to do. And these are reported out at 6 months. And so if someone gets an offer from CIA, for instance, we can't report those until they've cleared all their security. And sometimes it takes longer than that, sometimes up to a year. So sometimes those numbers look a little lower than they need to be. But if those reporting, they're usually pretty high, usually in the 93 to 99%. So the most recent numbers we have right now are 2023, because class of 2024 is still within their 6-month window of looking for jobs. So you can see between these two, the MPSA and MIA for 2023, state and local is big for MPSA at 48%, but it's not as big for the MIA because they're going to federal government. So federal government, if you skip down to, you've got federal government is 12% for the MPSA, but it's 52% for the MIA. So just keep in mind, these fluctuate with the demands of the student and what sectors they're looking for and who's hiring. So if you want to get examples of those kinds of careers, I'm going to put that up on the screen next. But this just shows you the last 2 years worth of sector employment and what those look like. You can see that continuing education, it's always a low number, but some do decide they want to go on for a PhD or for a law degree. And that's fine. We're just usually not the best preparation, particularly for the PhD, because we're not a thesis-based program. We're a practical-based program. And so we're not usually preparing students for that option. Here's what those career sectors look like. So you can see under federal, it's a lot of the 3 name acronyms: CIA, FBI, DIA. You can get into USAID. You've got all the departments of commerce, defense, justice, state. I could put a long, long list. But these are just samplings from the last 2 to 3 years of where our students regularly go. State and local, all over cities in Texas, Austin, Houston, Harris County. But you've also got people going into Maryland department, and you've got people going into Wyoming and Utah. So it just depends on what people want to go back to their home states or if they want to stay here in Texas. Nonprofits, those run from the community level all the way to state and even some international with Red Cross and things. So you really do get to pick and choose if that nonprofit has more of an emergency management feel to it, or, hey, I just want to work on fundraising with nonprofits that have a health focus. So we've got a great nonprofit center here that has some professors who have a ton of connections, great coursework. And then as far as the private goes, I just leave this on here because we do have people who are going either into security, into these areas, or maybe they're working with more of policy or analysis work with Accenture, Bank of America. There's just so many different avenues under these private industry that you can go into. But we will work with you one-on-one every time. So again, all of this information is on the website under bush.tamu.edu. In particular, you can look under the admissions section on the website to capture information about how to apply, what we look like. Under that section, if you go to the bottom, you're going to see funding and cost with a lot of information about how our scholarships work. You can always reach out to both me and Ashley at Bush School Admissions. That email comes to me. I'm regularly looking at it. And then the phone number, of course, is there. And if you're looking at either the certificates or the EMPSA, you need to go to the Office of Extended Education. And if you're looking at the Washington, D.C. location, then just remember that they've got both Jared and Jackie working at that location to help you with your questions. So with that, I'm going to give one little reminder about why the Bush School. And then I'm going to stop recording and start answering some of the questions that have come up This way just keeps the recording a little bit stronger. So why the Bush School? We've got passionate faculty, both practitioners and academics, which are fantastic for varying your education here. Not all theory, right? A lot of practical. Specialized concentrations that you get to choose what's of interest to you to build that knowledge. A lot of collaborative efforts here. You're building your peer cohorts. You're doing a lot of group work, a lot of the kind of work you're going to do actually in the industry you're in. The consulting projects with industry leaders through those capstones. You're going to get an opportunity to do a professional internship, or if you're in the MIA, you may choose to do the language immersion. You're coming to a major research university with vast resources and connections. If you haven't heard about the Aggie Network, you will while you're here, because Aggies love to help other Aggies, and they're all over the world. Research university, or say that best value public university. So we are highly affordable. Speaker events and conferences, constantly learning what's out there, how I can be a better person of understanding context of different events. You got career and faculty advising. We've got excellent employer rates, and we're very affordable, which I covered with those scholarships and the non-resident waivers. All right, so with that, I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'm going to start answering some questions. So thank you guys. For our students, here's what it looks like. And just tell me if it's MPSA or MIA, and I'll be happy to do that. If I haven't already, I may have already done that. Okay, well, then we're good to go. I'm going to end this. Thanks so much for joining us. And you guys have a very nice evening or morning, night. I'm not sure where you're coming from. Thanks so much. Bye.